Hi everyone, I'm Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. My guest on today's show is acclaimed crystal skull and paranormal explorer Joshua Shapiro. He is also the co-founder of the Center for the Advancement of Humanity. Joshua Shapiro, welcome to Paranormal Yacker.
Thank you for having me, Stan, and I love the name of your show, Yacker. That resonates with me. I think I'm another yacker.
What, Joshua, was the catalyst that initially drew you to the world of crystal skulls and which eventually led to you studying and investigating them as thoroughly as you have?
Well, like everyone else, I saw Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, where he had an episode with the Mitchell-Hedges skull and the British Museum skull. And also there was a book he did too, I don't remember the title, where he had the Mitchell-Hedges skull on it as well. But that didn't really catch my fancy. But when I met my first crystal skull, which if I can, I'm trying to see if I have one of my books. No, it's not handy. It was an amethyst crystal skull, which is known in the world by the name Ami, which was given to it by one of its prior guardians who unfortunately passed away. He was a very good friend, Al Ramirez. So it's when I saw Ami and the skulls. And this is just a picture of it. This wasn't the actual skull. I saw a picture of it first before I saw the actual skull. Through the picture, it starts talking to me and saying something to the effect that we're returning. Crystal skulls have been around in the past of humanity, but we're coming back to help humanity create world peace. So Joshua, now that you know, what are you going to do about it? Well, obviously, and this was in 1983, and we're in 2023, so that's like 40 years. I've been researching it. I've met a bunch of different skulls. I have, with my wife, who unfortunately just passed away, we had over 30 skulls. So each one has, if your readers could give me a latitude, there seems to be a living consciousness inside of them. And so they will talk to you if you are open. They will use your spiritual gift. So my first two spiritual gifts is I hear things with my thinking voice, and I also feel energy.
What criteria or methodology do you employ in determining not only the age and origin of a crystal skull, but its intended use or purpose?
This is a very difficult question to answer because there are two aspects to it. One is a scientific physical aspect that you could possibly research, and the other comes from the paranormal. Unfortunately, most of the information, I think serious, good information we're going to receive is going to come more from the paranormal, which means to work with a person who's sensitive to the vibrational frequencies of crystal skulls that have been around for a while. So usually a sensitive person, by interacting with the skull and feeling the energy, can tell, is this a new skull that's been carved, or is this one that could be quite old? And then the problem with age is because all the crystal skulls, whether they're made from quartz or other gemstone, there's no way to scientifically date. Carbon-14 dating doesn't work. Even if, let's say, you find a skull with the ruins of an ancient culture, how do we know that those were the people who created it? I personally feel, and this again comes from working with it in a more paranormal way, that the skulls themselves have traveled to many civilizations. It's very difficult to know. I think the most important aspect of any crystal skull is how does the energy of the crystal skull impact people? Does it do a healing? Does it provide information and knowledge, etc.? Because I've also been in the presence, like in Mexico, I've been in the presence of some crystal skulls, which energetically were totally misused by civilizations who had them. Maybe they did sacrifices with them. So these stones will pick up vibrational frequencies of people and activities around them. So they can be extremely positive, or they can also have a kind of a negative effect. I mean, this is the way humanity is. We have very sacred and important tools, and do we honor and respect them and use them in the proper way, or do we use them totally in a selfish way for power over others? For me, the original skulls, which I think comes from soul knowledge or soul memories, was gifted to humanity to help us to evolve into the highest state that we possibly can. And unfortunately, over the years, people have made duplicates, and those duplicates do not have the pure energy of the original skulls that were gifted to humanity. But can I prove that statement? No. It is what I would say the consciousness within the skulls tell me, or what I remember in other lifetimes working with the skulls. So I am not adverse as an Aries to put out all these crazy theories, because I happen to know after 40 years of working with crystal skulls that there will be quite a few people out there who have had past lives with skulls who will go, yep, I absolutely understand what Joshua is saying, and it totally resonates. So this is the major challenge we have. We don't have really any scientists. And I actually met an archaeologist, I think when I was in Arizona, who met the Mitchell-Hedges skull and was fascinated with it. But he said, I can't say anything about it, because if I do, the other archaeologists will be very upset with me, and I could have my whole profession in danger.
Well, you, Joshua, have stated that you believe the legendary island of Atlantis and the crystal skulls are connected. How so?
I have a memory of it. When I'm with the Mitchell-Hedges skull in particular, I start seeing a vision in my mind, although that's not my highest gift, but I can kind of see it like grayscale and feel the energy. And I know that I'm connecting to a lifetime in Atlantis, and I worked with the skulls. So this is where it comes from. But there's a lot of other people, like around the Mitchell-Hedges skull. There's been, and I don't know who fostered this idea, probably sensitives who worked with this skull when Anna Mitchell-Hedges was alive and she had it, felt very strongly that this skull, oh, now I remember where it came from. There was a book out called The Skull Speaks, which Carol Wilson Davies is the medium, and Anna Mitchell-Hedges allowed her to sit with the skull, and a voice spoke through her and started talking about that this skull came from Atlantis. So that was kind of a confirmation of a strong feeling that I personally had. And it would only make sense that an advanced civilization of the past would make the most sophisticated crystal skulls that we're aware of so far. So it just totally resonates. And Lemuria, too. We cannot discount Lemuria also being involved with such objects.
But crystals can and have been carved into various shapes. However, crystals that have been carved into the shape of a human skull seems to be favored by ancient, highly advanced civilizations. Do we know why they held a crystal human-shaped skull in such high esteem?
I think the simplest explanation of that would be that our bone skull is able to receive cosmic knowledge and information. I mean, it's the shape of the skull and the material. And quartz crystal also has the same capability. But being put into the shape of a human bone skull would enhance the quartz crystal ability to receive this sacred wisdom and knowledge from the universe. So this is why I think that the ancient people respected the skull, because as I had an opportunity one time to speak to some employees at Microsoft in the Washington area where their headquarters is, because one of my friends worked there. I said, you guys work with the modern computers, but the crystal skulls were the ancient computers. These were objects they understood in the shape of a human bone skull that they could store energy, information, knowledge. And so this is one of the most important services that the skulls are going to offer us in the future, is they've been sitting with all of these civilizations in the past, and we will have a technique or a way to bring forward all their wisdom and knowledge. So I think that serving as ancient computers would be a good way to see the crystal skulls and how they work with past civilization. At least this is what resonates for me, like in Atlantis, that definitely they used the skulls in this capacity. But again, it's coming from my soul knowledge. So the best thing for people to do is go and see one of these very old skulls, like Bill Holman, who has the Mitchell-Hedges skull travels, and some of the other guardians have some, and see what experience you have and see if anything I'm sharing makes any sense to you.
In the Mysteries of the Crystal Skulls Revealed, the best-selling book you jointly wrote with psychic medium Sandra Bowen and the late Fr. Nick Nocerino, a pioneer in crystal skull research, you write about crystal skulls and their connection with UFOs. What is that connection?
First of all, assuming that there are these advanced skulls that exist, the question then becomes, where did they come from? So we've already offered and discussed Atlantis or Lemuria as a possibility, but also the concept of gifts from the gods is spoken about from the Mayans. And the Mayans, I believe, have a link with the Pleiadians. And so this concept, maybe these advanced gifts or artifacts were gifted to humanity by an advanced civilization, but it may not have been from the earth. It could have come from other worlds, or I'm going to throw something in there which links into some of the free ebooks we have. Or it could have come from a continent connected to our world that is on no map that we've seen in school. So I'm going to leave it at that unless you ask me what I mean. I think that then the other clue to this is that when Nocerino and Bowen with their team went to Canada, which was in the 1980s, and Anna Mitchell-Hedges was alive, so they went to her house. They were using color, light, and sound to work with the Mitchell-Hedges skull. And a holographic image of a UFO appeared that even Anna Mitchell-Hedges had to admit was a UFO. So are the crystal skulls video cameras of a sort and able to record things around them? So their team was able to see UFOs and ancient cities with UFOs flying around them as holographic images in the skull. So this could also be another possibility of how the UFOs are involved. But I think that it's two ways. They gifted the skulls to us, the being, and also the skulls have the ability to record holographic images around them, and they show these UFOs and the beings themselves in these holographic images.
You have interviewed countless people over the years who told you how various crystal skulls had a profound effect on them. Could you, Joshua, tell me about some of those experiences they shared with you?
Okay, Stan. The most common experience, I would say, is healing. That people, especially with the Mitchell-Hedges skull, according to Anna Mitchell-Hedges, she reported that people who saw the skull that had some kind of illness, whether it's mental or physical or emotional, all of a sudden got amazing healing energy and their condition reversed. Like somebody had some illness, she said, it went away and it went back to the doctors and they didn't even believe that that happened. So healing seems to be the most important. But the other thing, and this is coming from my skulls, which are to my right, they just said, Dad, they call me Dad. They said, Dad, don't forget that when we're around, we enhance the creative abilities of our guardian or caretaker, as well as their spiritual gifts. So I would say those are the three main things. Like sometimes I have a crystal skull, but he's a little too heavy. But I'm going to show this one, which was made by Chinese carvers. So it's a modern skull, just so your viewers get a sensing of it. So it looks like human skull, except the Chinese carvers put an overbite. You know, oops, I was afraid of that. If I move it too far, it disappears. It has an overbite in the front part of it. I'm not sure which stone this is. Maybe it's white quartz, but they gifted it to us. But this is an example. All the skulls like Portal de Luz, which is my main skull that I work with, it was made by a Brazilian carver. It's like 12 pounds. When I put them around and I'm writing, it's like I have this fantastic energy around me and my thoughts come easier and the good way to write. So I think what it is they're enhancing our natural gifts inside of us, which we might not even know that we have. Another example would be Portal de Luz was given when I was touring with an ex-wife in Poland, and our sponsor was a biomagnetic healer. And he gave the skull to this woman who had a beautiful voice. And so what she did is she put Portal de Luz on her throat and said, I was able to sing much better than ever before. And Portal de Luz, which is basically a light gray color, turned almost completely clear after she sang. That's just to give an example of a way in which they work. But the key is when a person becomes a guardian, they need to work with and meditate with their own crystal skull, and it will start to communicate with them the best way it can help it, because each one has a different role and purpose or service that it will serve.
That's what was my next question to you. Should you, as a paranormal yacker, want to order any of your books, receive free ebooks you are generously offering my audience, learn about Crystal Skull Explorers, as well as the Center for the Advancement of Humanity, how can they do that?
So the easiest way to do that is just send me an email at Crystal Skull Explorers, so that's plural, Crystal Skull Explorers at gmail.com. And then I can send you links, direct links to the 9 free ebooks I'm offering, 7 which I've put together, 2 from other sources, the website on the crystal skulls. We have a carver from India we work with creating a certain type of skull. I'm actually getting ready to send one out to Australia here today or tomorrow. Or any questions you have, or if you want to find out what are all these interviews and videos that we've done or get on Telegram, just email me. That's the easiest way, and I can give you any information that you asked for.
Joshua Shapiro, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. I very much enjoyed yakking with you, and I look forward to having future interviews with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stan. God bless.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed part one of my interview with famed Crystal Skull explorer Joshua Shapiro. So that you don't miss part two, be sure to subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.